On the cusp, in the car with Ben Peeples right now.
Howdy, my friend. Good to be here.
I hope people can hear you. I'm driving. See, that's the whole thing. I named the podcast in the car, so now we have to drive around. When it would have made a lot more sense to do this.
Maybe in my studio where you picked me up, that's set up for podcasting. But instead, in order to stay on brand, we got to drive around like a couple of idiots around the town we live in. Try to do this podcast.
And now I'm driving with one hand. This is actually illegal, but that's kind of cool to have an illegally made podcast.
Hands-free Tennessee. That's
right. Well, I got one hand free, and I got one hand on the phone doing the podcast.
We're breaking all the rules.
On the cusp. What are we on the cusp of? Well, first of all, let me say this before we get into it. Without you, this podcast doesn't exist. You know that, right?
That is quite true.
Yeah.
Did you just stop it with your fingers when you fumbled?
No, I almost dropped the phone.
That's, you started talking. I've been trying to tell you for years to start compiling your stories, mainly your pre-Tennessee stories. Those are the best ones. But, just about how you arrived here, and you didn't want to do it because you kept thinking you're going to offend people or hurt people's feelings or whatever. So it's always been this, why don't you write a book? Why don't you put your memoirs? Why don't you do a podcast? No. Then you start talking about how you're always on the cusp of something. We're just having a conversation about your career and where you're at right now and the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs. And you're like, I just feel like I'm always on the cusp. And I was like, dude, you should do that. That should be your podcast, On the Cusp with Adam Pope. And you just tell stories about what your next adventure is, or what you just did. It's entertaining to me.
Well, you and about 3 or 4 other people so far. But to be fair,
like a snowball effect.
To be fair, I haven't shared it.
Yeah.
So at least 25 followers of mine will maybe tune in.
So you're a little scared to share it. You want to see?
Hey, well, yeah, I am. I have been nervous to share it because it's just me blabbing. But dude, you said something about you said I had a career, okay, and that makes me nervous. I don't think I have a career yet.
You've got some kind of career. It might not be what you envisioned, but I mean, you're paying the bills.
Well, that's true.
You got to have a career to do that.
That's a fact.
Well, that's not true. You got to have a job to do that. Most of us would differentiate between job and career. And you juggle a handful of jobs, and I'm saying the culmination of those jobs and your masterful juggling of them, that's a career.
Thank you. Well, speaking of jobs and careers, we just passed a muffler shop, and I bet those guys are exhausted.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
All right.
Stop him, God. Stop him right now.
All right, we're in a school zone. Can I take a moment here and just complain about this? What is this school zone thing? The kids, I've never seen a kid in the road at a school zone. You got these people standing in the road yelling at us to slow down. I don't understand why they don't go over there in the grass, face the school, and just blow their whistle and yell at the kids who are supposed to be running across the street that we could be killing.
How about learn to be careful? Remember when you used to have to do that? You're not careful, you're going to get run over.
Exactly.
Should have been more careful.
You're causing traffic jams. I mean, the whole city of Nashville, you should see all the school zones are just red for miles.
It's the government. The government, man, do they not get in the way of absolutely everything?
Absolutely.
And then, of course, when they create some new stupid law, then here come the guys that get to fill the new positions. So we got the traffic, the keepers of the traffic now. And they're out here, they're ironing their vest in the morning. They're now the hall monitors of the road right in front of the school. They graduated. They became a hall monitor of the street. They're street monitors. This one time we were driving past the school zone. This was when I was probably about 20 years old, and my dad was actually driving at the time.
I was hoping you'd tell this.
There was this street monitor every day out there. She was whistle happy. She loved to just... anytime, just the perception of you thinking about going too fast, and she was on it. So he would kick it into neutral when he was driving past her. We'd only be going, 13 miles per hour, and he'd stand on the gas. But we're just barely easing by, and she blew her whistle till her head flew off. It was amazing.
She couldn't take it, could she? Oh man, I love it. So that is what I love about you, Ben Peeples. I've known you for 17 years, and the way we met is quite bizarre, actually.
Yes, it is.
You came up to me,
Yes, it is.
and what did you say? I was at church. It was like my first Sunday
Yep.
at Long Hollow
Yep.
in Hendersonville when I moved to Nashville. And there comes this guy with a lip ring, kind of a punk rock looking dude, for good reason. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And you came up and you just looked at me and you said,
Hey, heard you play prisons. Look, here's the thing. What makes this even more just bizarre is I only even went to that church for a total of maybe less than 2 years of my life. I had grown up at a church most of my life at this other church. And then when I was like 18, 19 years old, I went over and started going to Long Hollow. It was this little blip of time in my life, and our lives intersected at that blip. Because I was hanging out with some girl that said, this guy over here, he plays music at prisons. And that stuck out in my mind. I was like, that's cool. I want to go meet him.
I don't know how she knew that, to be honest with you, but I must have been just laying all of my exciting stories out on the table when I showed up here.
Isn't the truth be told, you'd only maybe done that one time?
It wasn't even a prison, dude.
What was it?
It was a jail. I mean, look,
You know it was an old folks' home. You were like... You embellished this story so much. You were playing to 13 grannies with that little stand-up piano in the chapel area that no one ever goes to. That's what you were doing.
No, dude, it was a legit, like, first of all, I listened to the Johnny Cash prison concerts.
Okay.
And I said, I'm going to do that. So I called the Winston-Salem Penitentiary. All right, now, I guess that's what it was called. It was the jail, the prison, whatever. I wanted to find a maximum security one with a lot of murderers in
You
it.
wanted to be dealing with the hardened criminals.
I absolutely did. I wanted to be like Johnny so I could walk in there and kind of... I thought about even taking up smoking for this whole thing. But...
Come on, man!
Dude, I'm serious. I wanted to be in there. I wanted to really relate to him like Johnny did. I mean, he was my hero at this time. So I called up there, and they kind of shoveled me off to some preacher lady. And it was a black lady preacher. And she said, honey, you come on up here. And she said, Sunday morning. You come on up Sunday morning. I'll put you on there. You singing.
Singing.
I said, yes, ma'am. So I showed up, and man, they made me put my wallet in this thing, you know, and they made me leave my keys and my phone outside. You know, it was real maximum security. And then I had to go through a metal detector. I'm serious. And that was when I knew this was the real deal. And I carried my guitar in there, and I got up and I played, and there was about, I'd say 20, 25 jailbirds in there, you know. I mean, I don't know. These dudes, though, they were praising Jesus, and that woman was praising Jesus. She had a big black, like, vest on, you know.
Were
or not
you singing about Jesus, or were you singing Johnny Cash?
No, I had gospel songs and songs I'd written about,
Right.
you know, and so I came in there, I sang the song called The Thief.
Oh, I remember The Thief. Dude, you moved to Nashville with that song. That's the first thing I ever heard you play.
That's the only song I had, and I played The Thief for the thieves.
Oh, you were like, let me tell you something about stealing.
Hey, you know what? You can still go to heaven. So I played that one. Man, I remember this guy came up to me in all seriousness, and he had tears in his eyes, and he goes, I want you to have this. And he gave me a big, thick guitar pick, and he said, that way you can remember us.
Dude, you know
Dude, I still
brought
have
that in there in his keister.
Crap.
That's what they call it. They call that keistering it. That's how they get stuff in there.
I
You're
didn't.
not supposed to have a pick, brother. You got a duty pick.
No. I still kept it, but I'm gonna go sanitize it
Yeah,
now.
I think I would.
After 20 some years. But yeah, that was the moment when you said that. I was like, okay, so I think I told you the truth right away.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about our relationship that I think you just can sense that, you know, hey, you know what? He's going to call my bluff here. I better go.
Well, yeah, and I do enjoy embellishing
if he asks
stories.
me absolutely any details about a prison, I'm going to be stumped. I have no idea. I've never actually been to one.
You do turn on the pressure. So this thing is called On the Cusp. I'm about on the cusp of getting a ticket. Hold on, let me hold my phone lower.
He's actually
The Popo.
He got scared. He put
Yeah,
the phone down.
Popo's looking over here. So we're passing Bojangles. I love Bojangles. I just want to throw that out there. They might be our first sponsor.
Well, because you like anything and everything that reminds you of North Carolina.
Well, that is true.
Why do you like Cheerwine so much?
I
You're the
love.
first person that ever introduced me to Cheerwine. I never heard of such a thing.
What do you think of it?
I like it. I like Cheerwine. Actually, one of my favorite things to do is to mix it with vanilla ice cream and make a float out of it.
Dude, I went to Bojangles earlier today, and the guy, I said, and I'll take a large Cheerwine. Now, I don't even drink all of it, but I want to buy it to support, because there was a Bojangles in White House, and they got rid of Cheerwine because people wouldn't use it.
You were trying to support the Cheerwine?
No, I'm trying to support them putting Cheerwine in their fountain machine, because if it doesn't get used and that bag sits there.
You thought you would be enough.
I do think
Enough. Just me and my one large Cheerwine every now and then. That'll be enough for y'all to keep this thing stocked.
I
How about the one time you tried to lie? Didn't you try to lie to a gas station to get them to start stocking it? You were like, hey, how did you do it? You called Cheerwine and asked them if they would stock.
No, I knew Sal was the man's name, and I think he was a Greek man that we used to say he was an Ahmed.
Okay.
But we thought I don't know why we thought that. We'd go in there, we'd call him Hairy Arms and Hairy Knuckles. And so anyway, this guy, he would...
You're getting canceled before you even get started.
Oh, man, this is terrible. So he loved it, though. Like, we had a great relationship, and it was when I worked at the boat shop. So me and the boat mechanics would go down there. And Sal was always, trying to cater to us because we filled up the boats with his gas in Hendersonville. Right. So we were always every day there. And we'd give each other all kinds of crap. Well, one day, I said, Sal, you need to get Cheerwine in here. And he argued with me that that's stupid. Nobody would ever buy it. And I said, I would buy it all the time, every freaking day. I told him that. He said, you will? And I don't know why I think he talked Middle Eastern, but he did. And he said, I will get Cheerwine if you buy it. And I said, all right, man, get it. Order it. I said, but you got to order the bottles, the glass bottles. I was like, that's the only ones that are good. And I said, I don't like the cans and all that. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. Oh, okay, I'll do it. So the guy orders Cheerwine, but it's all cans. Dude, I drank one or two because I felt bad, but I quit getting them. I didn't like them.
Because you had already warned the guy.
He got mad, and he went and threw a trash bag on my truck one day when I was driving off, because I told him I wasn't going to drink any more Cheerwine until he got the bottles. And he carried a trash bag out and threw it on the truck hood.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding you.
This story?
Yes, it happened.
Ahmed.
Sal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, Ahmed was the other guy the guy that said, this is bullshit.
Oh yeah, you've already told everybody about him.
Did I tell everybody? See, I've forgotten the stories I've told on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm sad to admit I've actually listened to most of your episodes.
they're pretty brutal. So, dude, what are you? First off, okay, I was trying to think of what are you on the cusp of? First of all, your music career. How's it going, Ben?
It's not going at all.
Well, well, the worst part is when people think it is going, like me, and it's going nowhere. At least you admit it's going nowhere.
Man, here's the deal. I got the same dreams and ambitions that you do about playing music. I mean, roughly, we've been buddies for a long time. We talk about it. We go out there. We found out real quick that we make more money when we go out of town. But
for sure.
Your actual noteworthiness doesn't really increase.
No.
Because this is the town where you make a name.
Right.
Like, we're here. And so I always avoided doing that because I couldn't make any money. And so I spent my time spinning my wheels out of town trying to make money at various shows. And I'd make some money, and that's fine. But, of course, I ended up coming here and leading worship at Stone Chapel, and that's something I never wanted to do. That's the church my brother-in-law planted in White House. But after my band ended back in 2020, and it was just me, it ended up being me. The band's name is I Am Spartacus. We started out with 3 guys, okay?
Yeah.
Went down, became 2 guys after one of the guys quit. Ended up being just me. It was like prophetic. I actually am Spartacus. It's like I knew it all along. So it's just me, and I decide, well, let me hire some guys to help me fill in some spots, and we'll play some shows. We did a couple of them, but it ended up I was too busy with my business. I'm an electrician now, and so I've just not had the time. So it's been like this infinite hiatus where I'm like, I'm going to go back in the studio any day now. I'm going to start writing new songs. I'm going to start playing new shows, and that day just gets kicked further and further down the road. So I haven't played out and I don't know, a couple years, seems like.
That blows my mind.
Something like that, So, I don't know, man. But I did have a buddy reach out to me recently. He wanted me to help him co-write a song. And he was like, he lives in Canada. And he was like, hey, I just really feel like you can help me write this song. And so he sent me a chorus and a verse. And I sent him another verse. And he loved it. And it got the creative juices kind of flowing again. So in the past couple weeks, I have been writing more. Found myself waking up in the middle of the night, going writing songs.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Hop up, get in the living room with the acoustic and start. And then I co-wrote with another buddy the other day. So I am, by percentage wise, I'm obviously writing a whole lot more than I have been here recently. So who knows what's going to happen? But I wouldn't say I'm on the cusp of anything.
Well, I think I've realized that this podcast is basically me being on the cusp of nothing. We love Seinfeld.
Yeah,
it's a show about nothing.
This is the show about nothing.
This is a podcast about nothing so far. But
I always like to believe that I am as well on the cusp. I mean, obviously, we all want. We have purpose inside of us, right? We want to be doing something. We want our lives to mean something. I don't want to feel like I have wasted the last several years of my life pursuing music. So I'm trying to now just figure out, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with music? Because I do feel talented and gifted in that area, and I do still love to write songs. So I think my thing, and my wife told me this morning, she's like, I really would like to see you set aside more time to write.
I love how supportive she is.
Yeah. And so I feel like, that's something everybody's told me for years, that I really should focus more on the writing. And I was like, nah, man, I'm going to be a performer. I'm a performer.
You are a performer.
I want to do that. But I probably should focus more on the writing. I mean, this is the town to do it in, man. I mean, what are we doing with our lives? We're not writing, and we're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, I don't know. You got a mouse in your pocket? I'm writing.
A mouse in your pocket?
You said we're not writing. There's two of us here. You got... I'm trying to write.
You got a mouse in your pocket? I really did not follow you when you said that. Hey, go down here. There's a coffee shop. We should stop.
Okay, all right. And we can pause the podcast and then start it back up.
Good.
So,
I'll tell you what I'm on the cusp of. You want to hear?
All right, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So I started the electric company, and immediately I had a shift in understanding of business. Okay, I thought I was in business before with my band, but that was the business of having to beg and convince people to pay me money to do what I do. When I opened my electric company, dude, I'm talking about, it's like there was a line around the block needing things done. That's different, okay? That's a necessity. I was just, you got a set of wire cutters? Come over here and use them. I'll pay you lots of money. That was it. So I immediately went from really kind of scraping to get by, to pay for, to take care of my family, to we're thriving immediately. Oh, just overnight, immediately.
Wow.
And have not had a slow time since then. That was the end of 2020 when that started. Started doing that, but my wife and I always had a dream of kind of opening up a coffee shop, and for no real good reason except we love coffee shops, and wouldn't it be cool to have our own? And so we're finally in the midst of trying to get that going. So we're on the cusp of opening Bloom and Brew it's called Bloom and Brew. It's going to be in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, right off Conference Drive, right next to the Healthy Body Bakery. Robin's learning her craft right now. We're really close. I'd say we're probably 6 weeks from opening, something like that.
Oh my gosh, 6 weeks.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping that, honestly, what I would love for the business to start taking off to that degree to where I can lay down the electric company and start roasting coffee beans and helping her.
Right.
That would be a killer. We could do that.
I just realized my brakes are squeaking on the podcast.
You're on the cusp of
a brake job.
Yeah. That's right.
All right, so back to the coffee shop, Bloom and Brew.
Yeah.
Where did the name come from?
Well,
I like it. I like the name.
Okay, so the people ask that, they're like, bloom, what, like with flowers? Well, we've incorporated the flowers into the logo for that sake, but the bloom is what happens when you first introduce water to the coffee bean. It begins to swell as gas is escaping, and it causes the coffee, especially if you use a method called a pour over, and that's where it's kind of looks like it's in a flat. I'm moving my hands like y'all can see this. It's in almost like, it looks like a flask or like a chemistry jar, and you put the filter down in it, and you load it up with the coffee beans, and then you take your own little gooseneck, what do you call it, steamer what is the device called?
I don't know, dude. I ordered black
Kettle.
coffee.
That's what it is. The gooseneck kettle. And you just start to drizzle the water over the coffee beans in the open air, and you'll watch them swell, and they'll almost look like a muffin, like the way that it comes up. And that process, that swelling as the gas is escaping, you'll see it bubbling out of there. That's called the bloom. And
Wow.
you let it do that for about 30 seconds, and then you pour more water on it and destroy it.
You've been a coffee snob for how long?
Oh, probably 2017-ish is when I kind of started getting my feet wet.
Wow. I haven't gotten there yet. I like black coffee from I like it from Bojangles.
Here we go.
Dude, I'm sorry, I just do.
You got to support North Carolina. I understand. You know, the thing is, Tennessee used to be part of the North Carolina territory.
It absolutely did.
So it's like you didn't go anywhere.
Were you born?
If there's anything true about Adam Pope, is he is going nowhere. You know?
I'm going nowhere faster than anyone you know.
He'll travel thousands of miles and go nowhere. That's what Adam Pope does. All right,
hey, you said there's a coffee shop down here, and
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going.
just keep going.
All right.
I'll tell you when we get
Because,
there.
again, I feel like I'm going nowhere. It's
No,
a very familiar feeling.
It's called Beck's Farmhouse Coffee, I think.
Springfield, Tennessee.
Well, it'll actually be, I think, in Jolton by the time we get there. Yeah, we're gonna go.
Oh,
We got a little.
wow, okay.
But so yeah, it's the fellow that's actually helping us start our coffee shop. He's sort of like our coffee mentor. So he's
got a
helping-
coffee mentor?
Yeah. Well, I guess you would call him that. You know, his name's Brandon Staffelbeck. I'm sorry, Brandon, if you ever listen to this. I don't exactly know your last name.
He won't listen because very few people will.
That's right. I gotta hear this.
So, you mentioned Healthy Body Bakery, and that's our friend Angela. Oh, my goodness. I love Healthy Body Bakery. Conrad and Angela have an amazing business down there, and I eat the chocolate cake. And
As a matter of fact, he told me just a few minutes ago he's ruined his finances because of how much money he gives to the bakery.
okay. All right. On the cusp of going broke. That's what we're all out here trying to avoid, but you know, that's what happens when you chase your dreams sometimes.
That's right.
All right, so dude, by the way, I think I mentioned in an earlier episode when I started playing a bunch of cover songs on Broadway and going to just opening myself up to all types of entertainment. Dude, that's when I started getting booked more. That's when I started making a lot more money.
Yep.
And
you made a conscious effort to change.
Yeah, I adapted. I mean, for years I was just playing my own songs, and it's funny. Like the first episode I talked about how I've gotten in a groove of just entertaining people, kind of where they are, just giving them covers, and then I found myself in front of audiences that wanted to hear our songs, which was completely unfamiliar almost.
Yep.
But who knows where that will take us? Right now, I'm on the cusp of going to New York City to run a 5K, and dude, I haven't done any practice.
Have you told your audience about this?
Yeah, they know about it. All three of them.
All three of them.
Yeah, they know about it. And now I don't want to get into the story of how I'm ended up going there because I just said it on like the last episode. But
I remember the story too. I mean, I'm glad you're going because this is a very Adam thing to do. It's very impulsive.
Well, Adam, impulsive.
Yeah,
I planned this 6 months in advance.
Yeah, but you committed to it on the spot, dude. You talked to these firefighters. You went right home, looked it up, and signed your butt up. You hadn't run more than. I mean, have you ever run? I don't know you to be a guy that runs.
I run when I'm dribbling a ball.
Yeah, you run on the basketball court. That's right.
But that's not very often these days.
Well, that might help you though. Because you're only running a 5K, so like you said, this is entry level running. I'm not a runner. I struggle, I'm sure, but you'll make it. You'll be all right.
That's what I think. I'm not, dude. I have put
what you
zero
are,
effort into this.
What you for sure are, though, is you are an emotional person, and you will be crying throughout that. I know you will.
Why?
Because you're going to be feeling all the emotions of that firefighter, the honor, what it's all about. It's called Tunnel Towers, right? That's
it's
a thing. So I know you, man. You signed up for it for that emotional reason, dude. You get swept up in emotion, and there you go.
That's a fact.
That's Adam Pope.
Oh boy!
I'm emotional.
That's
too.
dangerous. That's dangerous.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it about you because I know I can tell when something's getting you. You know, like the other day at church.
Yeah,
we're all standing there after church, and you were just kind of talking to me and Dylan and I think Robin was standing there, a couple other people, and And I know you were like, shoot, I can feel it coming. But you were just trying to explain how great it's been to be at church and that you feel like God's moving and you just couldn't help, dude. I saw it in your eyes. They were starting to get red, and I called you right out. I said, you're about to cry right now. Sure enough, here come the waterworks.
Yeah. Well, you have a profound impact on me, and I don't understand it really. It started when basically, it may be because I wouldn't know Amy if it weren't for you.
That's true.
My wife. So let's just get the record straight here. I went on this group camping trip, and in the group was Amy.
Yep.
And dude, I'm gonna say this.
Go ahead.
We slept together the first night we met.
Well, it was a little unorthodox. I'll give you that.
No, I'm a Christian boy. I didn't do nothing wrong either. But you know what? There was a couple tents, and Amy was in one with her friend Leah, and dude, that was the only tent I could get in. So I climbed in there, and they were fine with it. I think they were a little awkward about it, but there was nowhere else for me to go. And I went and I laid off in the side of this huge tent. It was a very big tent. There's probably 5 feet between us, but I didn't sleep much because I thought, man, this girl is beautiful, and I can't even, like, if I talk to her, she looks past me. She was kind of rude, just to be honest with you, starting out. And come to find out, she had a boyfriend. So that was the deal.
You know,
but it's because
they
you
do get in the way, don't they?
Yeah, well, I got in the way of other people eventually. But that's how I met Amy, was on this camping trip that you invited me on. Yep. And I'll give Nikki some credit, too, for inviting me.
Was this Fall Creek Falls?
Fall Creek Falls, man. That's where Fall Creek Falls is where I fell.
Yeah, you fell in love with Fall Creek Falls.
Absolutely, yep.
Oh!
Boom.
There it is.
All right, yep. All right, so the other thing that you changed my life on, I'm married a few years, and I'm thinking, I kind of like this just being a couple thing. I'm not into having kids right away. First of all, my mom had 6 kids after I was 16 years old.
Yeah, you always joked about how you'd go back home to visit your parents and didn't recognize there's being a brand new kid there. You didn't even know his name. It was your brother.
That was a fact. I mixed up their names. I called them the children of Israel because there were so many of them, and they all had, they had Old Testament names.
Yep.
And so yeah, it was funny. And I don't know if that subconsciously just made me go, I just want to be contrarian to that. My mom seems to think that I'm a contrarian person, that's possibly played a part in why I waited to have kids for several years. But Amy was ready for a while, and I was just nervous about it. See, I was the kid when I was a kid, I was the kid who didn't want to get on the roller coaster first. I needed a buddy to go, let's do it, and then I did it, and then I would get other people on the roller coaster.
Yep.
But I wasn't the first on it.
You had to be talked into it, but then once you got talked into it, you were that thing's greatest salesman.
Amen. That's it, dude.
Yeah.
Yep. So that happened about children. I'm riding with you randomly to Kansas City. Me and you took a trip. And
we should talk about that a little bit. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So we decided to take a random trip to Kansas City, and we're on the way back, and I start telling you already had a son. And I'm telling you, I don't know, I'm kind of nervous about it, but I think Amy wants to. And you just told me to have a child. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
And I just said, okay. and about 9.5 months later,
it was about that quick. I just remember saying, dude, just do it, man. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
I said it's going to be the greatest thing in your life. Changes everything.
I had no good answer for that.
Because... And this is only proven to be more and more true as time goes on. People who have kids are better than people who don't.
Oh, boy.
They just are. Man, there's something, and it's not, okay, let me qualify. Let me back it up. Oop, let me back it up a little bit. Just say, here's what it is. You will always be a better version of yourself when you have kids. So the deal is, when you have kids, it changes you as a human being. I mean, people know this. You become more responsible, dude. You got something you got to care for and take care of, something so fragile, dude. You'll change your whole life for them. You'll move heaven and earth to take care of this person. It causes you to grow up immediately, and then you have a second one, and you get to do it again. You have a third one, you do it again, and it's just you're constantly getting better. So I am for people having kids. So the moment you start talking about I don't really feel like having kids, I was like, you know what, Adam, I'd like you to be a better person.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, it makes you a better person.
Yeah, absolutely. And it drew me and my wife together even more. I'll be honest with you, dude, for 5 years before we had kids, I don't know what happened. I don't know what we did. I don't know where we went. I don't really know anything.
It doesn't matter.
It's strange.
Yeah, that's a useless time. That's what... That's the way I look at it. I'm like, that time doesn't matter at all. All right.
It feels like it doesn't. I mean, we've talked about that. Like, what did we do? I think I worked a day job. I'd go do a gig. I'd go on the road and play a bar in West Virginia and come back. It was weird, man. Some of the things and none of it was amounting to anything.
Dude, I know a couple people right now that they just decided they're not going to have kids. And let me tell you, they suck.
Oh, gosh.
They could definitely use some improvement. They need kids. But anyways, nonetheless, maybe they shouldn't have kids because they're actually so awful they might be the type that harms the kids. So let's just
okay.
You don't have kids, okay? You stay over there being awful.
Okay. Wait, you just made me think about the Virgin Mary, the whole concept of the Virgin Mary. And, I know you've been studying a lot. You've got a podcast yourself called Undone.
Yeah, Undone Podcast, yep.
Yeah, Undone Podcast, and you and Pastor Dylan are going through theology, breaking down Scripture. It's an amazing podcast. So I'm going to just throw in a little bit of my own theology here on Mary, the Virgin Mary. Now, my last name's Pope, and I'm qualified to talk about this as the Pope in Sumner County, Tennessee. So Virgin Mary was never, she ain't a virgin no more. I mean, her and Joseph were getting it on right and left on the kitchen table sideways, every which way. They had a bunch of kids after Jesus.
Oh, boy, you talking about the mother of our Lord over there.
She was wild after that. I mean, I know she was. So
let's just remember for a second that she was probably only about 14 years old by the time Jesus was even born. So maybe we can talk about how wild she was, all right?
Well, she got married, and she was a wild, I'm sure. So I don't know why I've just always wanted to say that publicly.
Say it out loud, and this is your opportunity to do it since no one's listening.
No one's All right, now on the cusp of a church plant. Yeah. Pastor Dylan starts this church plant. And you, of all people, you used to champion the big church.
Yeah, for sure.
The what do they call them? The mega church.
The mega church, yeah.
And I've been comfortable in the mega church before. I get it. So how do you go from I love the big church experience to I'm going to get involved in a church plant?
Well, so I grew up in a relatively small church, 200 or 300 people. And then it eventually grew up to probably around 500, something like that. And then I started going down the megachurch route. And I always loved it because I thought, man, there's so many more resources. They can do so much more. They have more people. Like it's a sign of success or something. But very quickly recognized, well, how we're defining success might not be how the Bible defines success. And so over the years, I kind of began to grow a little bit jaded about the giant corporation type structure of some of these mega churches. And people will refer to it as like the Walmart model of churches. And it's just a very broad brush. We just want anybody and everybody to get in here, and we therefore have to shape our message a little bit accordingly, and we therefore focus on some things with more emphasis than maybe the Bible does, but that's what keeps people comfortable, and so it ends up getting to a point where there tends to be, here I go painting with a broad brush, but tends to be a pretty watered down gospel or almost no gospel at all. It's just a community event center.
Yeah.
And so that I get jaded over the years with that. So Dylan decides he's going to start a church, and there was a little bit of drama in the church that we came from, so it was kind of like I didn't want to leave it, but there was a point where it was like, okay, this is an appropriate way to exit. We're helping plant a new church. Let's do that, make a clean break. And we did. And this was smaller than anything I'd ever had. We only had a handful of people that had agreed to come. We didn't have anything. We were renting an auditorium at a local community center place. And so I had an old sound system from my barn that we hadn't used in a long time. And it was, I had rust on it. And
hey, were there some CDs out there?
There's there you go. I know where you're going with this. We'll tell that story in a minute. Anyways, yeah, there was a few thousand CDs out there. Okay. So we decided we're going to start this church. We got nothing, and it just accidentally became a really precious time because since we had nothing, we only had Jesus. So as cliche as that sounds, that's all we had. And so he got 100% of our attention. Okay? So that we weren't distracted with the parking lot team and the ushers and the crew that does this and the greeters and this group and that group and this thing and that club.
Can I interrupt here and just say it's easy, even when you're starting out, to get distracted checking the boxes of getting all that stuff into place.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing, dude. We were crippled by necessity. And it was a beautiful thing because we wanted to have all those things.
Okay. We
knew all the things you're supposed to have. So we wanted to be able to do them. We absolutely couldn't. We didn't have it. And so it created in us everybody always refers to it as like a really sweet time. It was a sweet time. And God, really was able to get a hold of us in that time. And we've wanted to try to maintain that since then. And during that season, what ended up happening was we really got a hold of God's word, and we decided we want to let's just all the traditional things that aren't even in his word, let's hold them with a wide open hand. And let's look at what the word says and let that inform everything that we do. Let's surrender to the word of God. Well, we started doing that, man. We had you'd find like some traditions or some preconceived notions and stuff that you held, pretty tightly to, precious to you almost, that you start going, I don't know why we do this. I can't find this anywhere in Scripture. Maybe it's not bad, but it's not beneficial, and maybe we should let it go. And we started doing that, and there started to become more of an authentic faith that developed out of it. We did begin the podcast, the Undone podcast, on that premise.
Yeah.
And it's been just a wonderful time, man. And we have grown a little bit since then. We are in a little shopping center type building with a strip of stores, but it's still pretty tight in there. We're running 2 services just to make it to where we can, get people in and out of there. But it's been a wonderful time, man. And I think God's he's really messing us up in a good way. So.
Man, the irony of that line you just said cracks me up.
Yeah, getting wrecked.
Yeah. We used to laugh. A church I went to for years, they had they all go through these seasons of a slogan.
Yeah, it's like a series.
Yeah, so this one series was wrecked. We're getting wrecked.
Wrecked.
For the gospel. So everybody's Instagram and Facebook was, I'm wrecked.
Yeah.
And it became trendy, and we automatically made fun of it.
Which could also be a terrific slogan for never mind.
An auto body shop.
I don't want to go that out.
I remember.
I was gonna do like erectile dysfunction.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm wrecked.
Okay.
Anyways,
yeah.
right,
Oh Lord. There goes the sponsors. The sponsors don't want us to talk about that.
Yeah.
Bojangles when I finally get them wrangled. But so you were by the way, he's talking about wrecked. I used to work at this body shop, and I remember when it would rain or ice, the guy that ran the body shop would step outside on the porch, and he'd take a deep breath. He'd say, I can just see the business coming in now. People out there were crashing and wrecking.
Yeah, well, you're in a business that you need just tragedy to strike so you can make ends meet.
Well, one time, me and my buddy Carlos, I like to talk about Carlos.
Your one Mexican friend, nation authority on all things south of the border.
Yeah, so me and Carlos, we decided we would go get, we washed cars there. Yeah. So the cars that we washed were cars that got worked on. And they would come into the wash pit, and me and Carlos were there grinning, telling jokes, making sure those cars were clean. And we would get them good and clean, and that's the deal. If you're going to fart around all day, you got to at least do your job good enough to be able to fart around all day at those jobs. So we got we got one vehicle, perfect. And then there's the shuttle van, and we go deliver the vehicle. I'll drive the vehicle. Carlos drives the shuttle van, picks me up, and then comes back. We deliver the vehicle to the customer.
Yeah.
So we pulled out, left the office, and went right up to this intersection. And it was a stick shift vehicle that I was driving, a stick shift truck, Toyota truck. So I was pretty confident that I could drive this truck. Well, it turns out, I wasn't used to this particular one. And so we got up there to the intersection, and as I went to turn right, I stalled out. Well, Carlos wasn't looking, and he just slammed the back of the truck and smashed it in completely. This truck that we just got fixed to give back to the customer. And they were real particular about this truck. And so the guys, when we left, were all standing on the porch of the body shop. And 3 minutes later, we came back, like the truck's all broke and tail lights hanging down, jacked up, and I'm driving this thing back into the parking lot of the body shop. Carlos got the shuttle van all smashed, and we were wrecked. For Jesus, that's the whole point of that.
That's where you were going with this?
No, not at all. I'm trying to figure out how to land the plane, Ben.
It was all about being wrecked.
No, we got back, and my boss had this kind of Elvis thing going where he would always be a little bit slobbering, they're just kids, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He talked whatever, and he shrugged a lot. And his name was Jeff, and so Jeff saw us. He always loved me and Carlos, but he's always like, "Come on, fellas, you can't be doing this, man. It caused me all these problems." He was wiping his mouth as he talked, and we just died laughing the whole time. That's the end of the story.
Oh man, it would have been better if you just stopped at wrecked. See, now we're back to it doesn't actually make any sense. Just a story.
Oh man, see, I think this podcast has freed me up to just jump into random stories for no reason and then try to tie them up.
You got to tie them up, though, brother. You got to. And gee, I know you're better than this. You can do better.
That's why I invited you on to help me out. All right.
That's
so,
good.
hey, speaking of, you at one time were on the cusp of being famous.
Oh gosh, here we go.
All right.
You're just trying to get me to talk about the CDs. I already know where this is going. All right, just pull over and park somewhere.
Let's keep talking.
All right. So, there's this. Do I get specific or I just?
Well, make it. I mean, come on, just tell the story.
All right. So there's this.
Can I start it?
Yeah, you can set it up.
All right.
Sure.
All right. So, you've written some great songs.
Oh
in your
yeah,
life.
some
Okay.
real.
This was a great song. Okay, and you wrote it. What, 2012, 2013, 2014, somewhere in
It would
there?
have been 2015 because, okay. Let me just take it.
Yeah.
All right, so Glenn Beck, radio personality, conservative talk show host, he does these big rallies around the country, restoring love, restoring hope, restoring unity, all these sort of beneficial type things where we're bringing people together.
Patriotic.
Yeah, patriotic, and so he was on this campaign about all the Christians that were getting, killed by ISIS over in the Middle East, and there's refugees now are fleeing their countries looking for places to stay. So he started this campaign called Never Again Is Now, and he's talking about, hey, it's time to put our money where our mouth is.
We're never again going to let this happen.
Right.
We've been saying that for decades.
Right. Yeah. So here we are. It's that moment has happened. So I wrote a song called Never Again Is Now about that theme, and then we got in contact with some people that harkens back to that first story we were telling when I told you to have kids.
City.
Yeah. We got in touch. They actually knew Glenn Beck a little bit, so they passed the song up the ranks, and it got to his ears, and he said, hey, this is great. Why don't you come play this big event in Birmingham? And so now I'm like, okay, they're expecting about 30,000 people.
And they also put you live on the air.
Yeah, they had me live. Yeah.
Played the song. I mean, you were on 300, 400 channels nationwide.
I was expecting my life to change.
I was too.
I really thought my life was about to change. It was about, this was it, and this was ordained by God. It was going to happen. That's why I was like, what's going to happen?
You gave a very impassioned speech.
Oh, man. We did a concert the night before. And I told you Adam likes to cry. I started tearing up talking about how I told a story that I robbed the story from Adam, first of all.
Yeah, my dad, actually.
I mean, no story you steal from Adam hadn't been stolen 10 times over before it got to him. So just remember that. So he had this really awesome story about, a tree falling in the woods, no one being able to hear or something. I don't know.
No. Hold on. Let's not blow through that. I got to tell that part. Because my dad has always given me this amazing advice. He said, son, you're moving to Nashville. He's like, you're going after a big old tree to chop down.
Yeah.
This is going to take a while. You can't just expect to go.
You started out because you were complaining about it. Everybody seems to be passing you by.
Yeah, everybody in my life, they're
buying houses, having kids, they're making careers.
Right.
Here I am trying to make it as a songwriter.
And I'm sleeping in my car half the time downtown. And my dad's like, you're trying to chop a much bigger tree down than the rest of these people that you're seeing. They're walking past you with their little tree that they worked on.
Yep.
And it's kind of demeaning to them people, actually.
Yeah, we're actually talking about how worthless their lives are.
So, anyway, it is a great illustration of when you're taking on something that's a dream and a goal. You just keep working. You keep chopping away. And so, I told Ben this story a couple times.
Hold on. So, the end of the story goes... One day that tree is going to fall.
Right.
And the whole world's going to hear it.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, so
it's this big payoff. So it's such an inspirational story. And
so you were on the cusp.
I was on the cusp of something. So, and I don't know if you remember this, but months prior to all this happening, I was on the phone with you one night, basically whining, complaining about how nothing's going right with my, like, I'm just not.
I don't remember that.
I'm not able to, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to do. I'm trying, and you're trying to encourage me or whatever. So this Glenn Beck thing happens, and I'm like, wow, man, I hung in there, and look what's happening. So we're in there, we're talking, we're doing our little concert, we do a house show.
The night before the big event.
The night before the big show. And so
I'm there at the house show
that we're staying at, and there's probably, I don't know, there's a good crowd of people there. I don't know. What do you think? There's 150 people?
It's a big crowd. Yeah.
A whole bunch of people out there in the yard, and we're playing our songs, and it gets, and we made it as dramatic as possible. We get to our very last song, we hold it off because we know, everybody's here for this.
That's the hit.
This is the one. And so I get ready to play it, and I give this speech about how, I've been discouraged and this and that, but you know what? Adam told me a story one time, and I start going through the tree story, and I get choked up.
Yeah,
dude.
you did.
I get choked up, and I'm mad at myself for getting choked up. I can't control it. My throat is closing off, and I'm like, that tree's gonna fall. I got people patting me on the back.
But you said,
it's gonna be all right.
That tree is finally about to fall.
Did I say that?
Yeah, you did.
So something like that. Yeah. So the tree's finally about to fall, and I think the world's about to change, and it's because of what I'm doing. I am really doing something. So we get to the event center the next day, and it's chaos, dude. They're trying to set our little merchandise tables up in the perimeter of the arena, like any other arena, and they put us all the way in the back, and there's really no traffic back there, and I had ordered 5,000 CDs with this song on it. Okay?
Just that song?
That song, well, and one other. It was a 2-song thing.
Right.
And I had marketed it and did the branding so that it matched Glenn Beck's event so that people would, see, I want to, I thought I'm going to make tens of thousands of dollars.
I mean, you're selling these things at a table. You got 5,000 of them.
Yeah, I'm selling them for like $5 a piece or something. People want a commemorative item or whatever.
Right.
The event goes on. We play. It goes fine. There wasn't quite as many people. There's probably 18. I don't know, 15,000 maybe.
It was a lot of people. And you played at the event in front of all these people in this stadium.
Yep. And then the event gets over, and the owner and operator or operators of the building wanted everybody to immediately leave. So they funneled them all out the front doors. No one even came out the doors where we were. So I sat there with my stack of 5,000 CDs. I sold more the night before at the house.
Oh boy.
And I still have them, and to Adam's point, they are basically squirrel food in my barn right now. Every now and I go out there, and they're a little more and more chewed up. There's still thousands of them out there. I need to build something with it. I don't know.
I just love that they're still in the barn. Dude, I've done that.
Yeah, you have not done that, Adam. You have not done that.
Okay. I haven't done that. No, but
You haven't made such a big deal about something the night before, like you're about to change the world. And then absolutely squat happens. The joke was on me, man. Egg on my face. That's what that was.
Okay, well, just to make you feel maybe somewhat better, during COVID, in South Dakota, there's the Corn Palace Festival. All right, so they have pretty mid-level, really good country acts play there. And sometimes some of the bigger guys show up and play there. Well, because of COVID, all of these teams were just backing out. You know, these big groups, these artists, they're backing out right and left. And this dude that runs the Corn Palace calls me on my golf cart one day. Now, the Corn Palace is a big venue in South Dakota, and it's a big place to play. He says, Adam, all these big groups are abandoning me. Can you and your band come up here and play for our festival and open for Aaron Watson, who I love Aaron Watson, great Texas artist. And this is a great slot for us. This is amazing. Are you kidding me? This is going to change my life, all right? So I say, yes, sir, absolutely. And I ordered a bunch of T-shirts, CDs. I did a similar thing. I didn't order 5,000, okay? But we won't talk about numbers.
I thought that was a good number. Anyway,
I thought at the time I thought it was smart to do that. But dude, here's the kicker with what I did. My buddy Ron, he calls himself a merch lurch. He says, yeah, I can be your merch lurch. He always says this. So okay. I said, Ron, I need you on this one, buddy. This is going to be a big crowd. It's the COVID year. South Dakota, they don't care whatsoever. They're coming, all right? And so Ron says, I'm driving there. He drives all the way to South Dakota and sits down at the merch table as we set it up. And he's ready, credit card, cash, he's got it all. He's ready to take care of everybody. Dude, there were 500 to 800 people there, okay? That's not as big as I thought it'd be, but it's pretty good crowd. And not one person bought anything, and he was right there with the lights on him. Nobody cared, dude, and we didn't sell anything. Now, I've had big nights on merch that elsewhere, but that was one night that was the one time I got a guy to drive to South Dakota to run merch for me, and nothing was sold. So anyway, I feel your pain slightly, even though I don't.
It's similar. It's not quite as humiliating. I mean, you didn't quite build it up as much as I did. You didn't cry, so
okay, well,
you didn't tell the tree story.
No,
tree's falling right now. There we go.
But the thing of it is,
timber.
We're kind of mocking. You did do that, man. You said that tree's falling.
Oh gosh.
All right. So
absolutely embarrassing.
Ben, Kansas City. You said you wanted to say something about Kansas City.
I just thought so. Kansas City is how we met all these people, dude. We met so many Mormons. On this trip, dude, so many Mormons. We stayed at a house because Glenn Beck's a Mormon. He draws a Mormon following, apparently.
Right.
We didn't know this. And so we ended up staying in this house with some friends of friends or whatever. Turns out they're all Mormons. So we end up, I think our Mormon friend ratio is much higher than anybody else in this part of the country.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I would say so.
I think we probably know way more Mormons than a lot of people around here.
And the funny thing is, I never really thought much about that.
Oh, man, that hung with me, man.
It didn't cross my mind, even.
I was like, dude, this... Because, they're Mormons do that. They're out there in Utah. That's their land.
Yeah.
So they're all out there.
Right.
But there's not a whole lot of them out our way. So when I started realizing what was going on here... I think it was probably... about, when I started getting proselytized, people trying to...
I don't even remember that happening to me that much. They must have thought you needed it more than me.
They knew, they probably thought I was ripe for the picking. They're like, this kid.
Dude, all I know is I was around patriots. That's what
we were definitely around some patriots. I remember when we walked in the door at midnight to go to bed, there were guys talking about issues with our country in the living room. I was like, dude, I don't want to get in a conversation. I want to go to bed.
Well, dude, here's what I remember about Kansas City. We go to this event, all this patriotic stuff's happening. The event's over. Now, you forgot all about this. I had to remind you about it the other day. The event's over. We come out, and for some reason, we don't just leave. We're standing around at the information desk, but there's nobody at the information desk.
It's an arena.
Right.
It's an enormous venue.
So we're sitting at the information desk, I think just sitting there.
Yeah, we're just hanging out.
Trying to figure out what we're going to do. But because we're behind the information desk, people start asking us for information.
That's right.
And I remember starting off by just giving them bad information confidently and just saying, yeah, Olive Garden, you go out there, you turn right, you go about 3 blocks down, if you make a left. Now, I don't know why at this time, this was a long time ago, so they didn't use their phones as much or something.
Yep.
And
what year would this have been?
What are we looking at?
2013,
I bet
14?
That
was 13. I bet that was 2013.
Yeah, 13 or 14.
Yeah.
So, dude, I just remember laughing so hard because we sent people all over town confidently looking for stuff that we knew.
We lied outright to them.
We absolutely did. And I've never been a liar, but I was that night.
You fabricated a story or two.
Oh, not
Let's just say.
Oh, boy.
He gets caught up in the emotion of the whole thing, and he'll start just adding extra, sauce onto the story.
You're just ruining my podcast.
That's what he will do. He will absolutely do this. I mean, the first time that I ever realized that he was prone to this was when he started talking about what we call the bowling green.
We're going to go here. So Jake Adega.
I think you should.
By the way, can I
explain.
So Jake Adega. So I knew this guy named Jake, and every time Talladega happened, he'd have a party at his house because they used to go to Talladega, but then they got to where they couldn't afford to. Hey, by the way, a great story that Jake told. He said that they'd go to Talladega and they'd get a guy in a wheelchair, one of their buddies. They had this wheelchair somehow, and they would hang out at this area where there's a lot high traffic, a lot of people in cars, and they're trying to leave the event or come into the event. And he said they would be like on the hillside next to this intersection with this wheelchair, and Jake would convince his buddy to get in the wheelchair and be pushing him up on these people who'd never seen these guys before, and he would dump him out and start kicking him, saying, I'm tired of pushing your butt around everywhere we go. You've been nothing but complaining and whining and just going off on these guys. And they would dump the guy out of the wheelchair. It's great. Anyway, he has the wheelchair still. So I went to his house. He told me that story. And we used to go to Bowling Green to the Jake Adega parties, and I would play these parties. This is a long time ago.
Yep.
And one time you and I were starting to go there, and there was construction. And I said, no, it was in Franklin, Kentucky. This is where we were going. And I said, don't get in the left lane, because if you do, you're going to be stuck there behind that wall all the way to Bowling Green, and I have to turn around and come back, because that was my experience one time.
Yeah, sure.
So,
sure it was. We'll never know.
You made fun of me and said that I had made that up. And now every time I tell you a story that you find a little skeptical, you call it a Bowling Green. And so that's been branded.
It has been branded, and it's kind of your calling card, man. That's what you do, and I love it about you. I love that you when I rode on the golf cart with you, I could tell that you were making crap up about Nashville, but it was good because I was like, hey man, he's living his best life over here. These people are entertained. It doesn't matter if any of it's true.
Okay, so I do make up one story on the golf cart. We pass a place called Alive Hospice. That's the name of it. Can you believe they named it that? Alive Hospice? Actually, the Bee Gees stayed there. They were, staying alive, but they got old. But anyway.
Okay, that's a little different.
I do, but I'm an entertainer.
Setting up a joke. I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm there with you.
Okay. All right, Ben, we're on the cusp of getting coffee.
Yeah, we are.
This thing is on the cusp of an hour long.
It's on the cusp of not being interesting anymore, if it ever was.
I don't think it ever was, but it's been fun.
Yeah, man.
All right.